Hello everyone, I'm CoolGuy, welcome back. I'm starting to get out more Sundial weapon reviews. I figure these are here for the season. You have enough time to grab the correct roll for you before the weapons are more or less left behind. And on my end, I've been grinding these hard, lots and lots of grinding, getting the top rolls, testing them. I don't take accounts. I have 3 that are top tier that are going to be showcased today, basically 3 god rolls in this video, and hopefully you can make a decision on which one you should go for. In this review, I'll go over the perks, how they apply in PvE and PvP, and the overall usefulness of the scout rifle. You're going to be seeing mouse and keyboard PC, controller PC, console gameplay, all of it. And in the background gameplay, you're going to be seeing those 3 different roles, and later on in the review, I will go over each one. The first one is going to be Rapid Hit Worple Weapon, and that one has a very specific use, and I'll say when that's working. The majority of the gameplay is Rapid Hit Explosive Payload, and the third one is going to be a sleeper role, one that I think that I like a little bit more than the Explosive Payload role, and I'll get into that in a moment. So in the background gameplay, if you see something without Explosive Payload in the Crucible, it's that one. Today's weapon is a Saint 14 Scout, Patron of Lost Causes, a 200 RPM lightweight frame kinetic scout rifle, the same archetype as the Mida. The frame states superb handling, move faster when this weapon is equipped. It has a big role in your loadout this season with the artifact, and I think it can stick around for you after the season is over. And as I go on, I'm going to be giving this a positive review. It did well everywhere I played with it, even on PC, long range maps, short range maps, as long as I was sticking to my engagement distance for a scout rifle. And it does so well because its perk set is centered around accuracy, not lethality. And that might not sit well with some of you, but with what it does very well. It's a 200 RPM legendary, same as Mida in the kinetic category. So let's talk about the scope real quick. It's a locked in 2x zoom, it accepts barrels, it's very open, very clean, easy to work with. And one of the reasons it feels so nice is that it really does closely resemble Mida multi-tool as far as the scope. Mida has its 100 aim assist, its advanced movement speed of course, but Mida levers can really feel it in the scout rifle a little bit. For the base stats, the number next to each stat is from Night Watch, because that's going to be the direct competition as a 200 RPM legendary kinetic scout. The Patron has a range of 40, stability of 39, reload of 58, handling of 67, aim assist of 67, and a recoil direction stat of 59. Night Watch is a couple better here or there, but in the end, not much to really distance itself is vastly superior. The main difference, stat aside, is going to be that the Patron of Lost Causes is farmable. With where I am with my obelisk completion, and this scout does come from Nessus, I was farming 4 bounties and getting 3 of them after a Sundial run, so 7 are being worked on. Extremely farmable. I mean, I've been trying to get a Rapid Hit Explosive Payload Night Watch, and I've probably spent a legit 40 hours trying to get that, and I never got it, much less a solid roll. And with this scout, I got that Rapid Hit Explosive Payload in about 3 hours. So if you grind for it, you can end up with the roll. For its perks, it has 9 barrel options. For scouts, controller users, you're looking for stability, mouse and keyboard, you're looking for range. Top perks are polygonal for more stability, full bore or hammer forge for the most range, and then small bore for the best of both worlds, stability and range. Fluted barrel is actually high on my list, and it's kind of the unsung hero of barrel options. Slight increases stability and a great increase to your handling speed. There are also 2 perks that adjust recoil direction, chambered compensator and arrowhead brake. The recoil direction stats at 59, it's going to trail off to the right. And when you add something like chambered compensator, all that's really doing is changing the curve, and it's going to start throwing the recoil left. So at base, all you really want to do is add a counterbalance mod. The mod tightens it up significantly, and as the rounds go on, it gets more vertical. And for the Crucible, this is what I recommend. Because again, this scout and its perk set is about accuracy, not damage dealing. You want those follow-up shots to be straight and on point. Mouse and keyboard, it even helps there. For PvE, enemy-specific mods such as Minor, Major, Boss, and of course the artifact mods, Unstoppable, Anti-Barrier. For the magazine, there are 8 options: steady rounds for stability, accurize for range, drop mag for reload. For the main perks, there are 6 options in each node. The first perk node, we have Rapid Hit. It's a hybrid outlaw and Zen moment. Both are top tier individually, but this is them combined. It stacks so ×5, the higher the stack, the more stable it is, and the faster the reload. A top tier perk on any weapon. Full auto, self-explanatory. It works well with the 200 RPM because the rate of fire lines up with the reticle reset after each shot. And some of you might love this, some of you may need it actually, and some of you might not see any value. It's going to be up to the player. I personally value Rapid Hit over full auto, and I'll talk about that later on in the review as it goes on. We have Mulligan, not very useful. Its magazine is long enough and the base reload is fast enough that the value just isn't there. We have Grave Robber, not good on the scout. Underdog, it's horrible for this scout. And then Field Prep, deeper ammo reserves. When you crouch and reload, you get an outlaw type reload. It's very fast. It's basically outlaw on demand. Very firm that the top 3 are going to be Rapid Hit, Full Auto, and then Field Prep. And Field Prep's going to be actually a distant third. The other 3 perks, if you get them, more than likely you should just trash it. Mulligan, not so much. Underdog gives you a fast reload when you're in red health, and then there's Grave Robber. And some of you might love these perks, that's all good, but the other three are way more useful and are gonna come up way more often. It would be different if the magazine was low or it had a slow reload, and you needed something like Grave Robber, or you could pair Grave Robber with Swashbuckler, but none of those things are in play. And then Underdog is just flat out horrendous on this. Moving on to the second perk node, first we have Worple Weapon, increased damage against bosses, vehicles, and guardians that are in their super. With this perk active on a boss, it deals 14.9% more damage. We're gonna go ahead and round that up to 15% more. You know when it's working on your enemy because the Worple Weapon text appears on your screen. A boss spec does stack on top of this perk, so from base damage with Worple Weapon added and a boss spec, you deal 24% more damage than base. And in the perk combo section, I'll talk about this just a tad bit more. But this can also work with higher tier majors. You see that the boss spec is on, hitting the ultra, the big ogre, and then when I switch to the knight, a major, the damage isn't there with the boss spec, but on these enemy types, such as this knight, you can put on a major spec, and that again stacks on top of Worple Weapon for that 24% more than base. So it does count the higher tier majors as bosses. For supers, it does really good damage in the Crucible, and I couldn't really get exact numbers because it kind of depends on the super. It does good enough though that it does warrant usage. I still need to mess with it, but Malfeasance is probably still the king as far as your primary for shutting down a super. But what's really nice about a Worple Weapon Scout is that when Mayhem rotates through, maybe some of you just want to get your PvP games out of the way, this Worple Scout is perfect. It really is until more ranged options come up, more variety. So it does have a lot of utility there against supers, so pick one up for that. Next is Explosive Payload, extremely good on a 200 RPM. The bullet breaks into two numbers, the explosion and the bullet itself. And what makes it special on this RPM is the amount of flinch and screen shake that it creates. It's top tier. I've worked with this one a lot, and it does indeed seem to make players miss snipes and even arbalists, and I've spoken to other content creators and most agree that this archetype is one of the very few that's a direct counter to actually flinching a sniper off of a target, combined with those explosive rounds, so that alone is worth a pickup. It's also strong in a straight 1v1 duel primary versus primary. It's another top tier PvP perk for this scout. Next, Osmosis. Throwing a grenade changes this weapon's damage type to the current subclass that you're using until you stow it. Very good on, let's say, a Nezarexen Warlock. Very good for match game. And since it's a scout rifle, you have the range. You can even throw on something like Chromatic Fire with a Warlock to match shields, match burn, whatever it is, then get that Chromatic Fire explosion on a headshot. Very interesting perk, and I'm sure more is going to come out of it as time goes on. Next, we have Opening Shot, and I'm never ever going to say that this is a bad perk because it's great, but I do feel that with this particular scout, other options are better fit for its perk set. It's not bad at all, it's going to be up to you. It will be good if you decide to go for a roll with it. Elemental Capacitor, very good perk, and I will talk about it in depth in the perk combo section. We have Under Pressure, decent, but the magazine is large. It's going to be low on the list. Here's the deal with any of these perks. If you value one not talked about in depth, then you do you. That's the beauty of these Sundial weapons, because you can obtain the one that you want. If you want full auto Opening Shot, go for it. If you want Rapid Hit Under Pressure, go for it. I have farmed a lot of these. The rolls are there for the taking. Now let's talk about perk combinations. There isn't a top roll because each one is special in their own right. First one is going to be Rapid Hit Worple Weapon. More stable as you land shots, you get a fast reload, more damage to yellow bars. The idea behind it is that it's good chunk damage. For what it is, that damage is kind of needed. We've all been there, say you're in Gambit or PvE, a damage phase, you're out of sniper, there's just a little bit more time left. You can pull this out, get Worple Weapon going, get good chunk damage to move on to the next phase. And this also doubles as a PvP role, especially for Mayhem. Currently, for Season of Dawn, the artifact supports Scouts, Anti-Barrier, Unstoppable, Enhanced Rifle Reloader, so if you're at a distance, you can just keep laying into them, breaking the shield, or stopping them with the Unstoppable Shot. Ideally, you want to bring out a sniper or a grenade launcher, but again, there are those times when you don't have the ammo, so that's where the Worple Weapon can shine. It's not crazy out of hand strong, but it does really good damage for what you need it for. The toughest part about a Worple Weapon Scout kinetic at 200 RPM is that Izanagi is also in that kinetic spot, as well as various other options such as a 1-2 punch shotgun. So it is going to be loadout and encounter specific, and in those situations when you find them, Worple Weapon has a place, it can shine. The next role is going to be Rapid Hit Explosive Payload. You've been seeing this one a lot in the background footage. This is more so for PvP, but it also can work well in PvE. And again, if you feel that full auto is more beneficial to you than Rapid Hit, then substitute it right in. But for me, and I'll talk about it, we're going to walk through it, it's going to be about the stability that Rapid Hit gives you. That's the key. I think a lot of players last season that got Randy's throwing knife, after using it, thought, you know what, this isn't that bad. It's actually pretty good and fun to use. It's full auto, it has kill clip for lethality, but Rapid Hit is really what's making it work with that scout. And when most players switch to a scout in the Crucible, they go to Jade Rabbit, they go to Polaris mostly. Those are overall the go-to scout options. You see them a lot on maps like Midtown or longer lanes, but it's no coincidence that both of these exotics have Zen Moment. Shots getting more stable as you land them. It feels really good to use. You would see a lot more cut and runs, a lot more does not computes, but their base stability is low. So Jade is the exception to the rule. Very high stability and it has Zen. Polaris. And the Braytech scout that's like Polaris, it also has Zen Moment. That's why they're so deadly. And that's the same with Randy's throwing knife, because it has Rapid Hit for its Zen Moment type perk. Rapid Hit is getting more stable as you land shots, so really think about what's happening in a duel. You're going to have your regular rise of your recoil as you shoot each shot, and the more shots you land, the more stable it's getting, the more the reticle is being sucked back to the center. It's almost like a magnet. When you get flinched, your crosshair is getting pulled up and off. As it's doing that, when you do have Rapid Hit going, or you do have Zen Moment going, it's directly fighting that. Again, it's like a magnet, like a vacuum pulling it back in on your target while it's being flinched. There's a little tug of war match going on, but it being so stable is what makes it key. That goes for mouse and keyboard, that goes for controller, that goes for everywhere. It's a top tier perk and I personally value it way more over full auto. The second part of this role, explosive rounds, you're getting stable, applying massive amounts of flinch in 1v1 duels, especially against snipers, linear fusion users. But another thing about explosive rounds is that they can be shot on the floor, next to cover, on a wall. You can get some free damage there, but also explosive rounds really widens the hitbox, and you're seeing that right now, a massive player hitbox. These two together on Night Watch and users that have used scouts with explosive payload like this, you kind of feel that and you know that. But it only really works on the 200 RPM and faster. And that goes all the way back to Destiny 1. There was full auto like the Scorpion or Randy's throwing knife that had explosive rounds that you just peppered people down with. Screen flash, screen shake. But on a 200 RPM, this is a top tier combo. Rapid Hit, explosive payload. Now the third role is a sleeper role. That's going to be Rapid Hit, Elemental Capacitor. And that's specifically on a Void subclass, so Night Stalker, Void Walker, Sentinel, and of course the Middle Tree, Spectral Blade, Nova Warp, but this perk states that you get increased stats based on the current subclass equipped. Solar is reload, and through testing, the reload is about 9% or so faster. It's not that much. Arc is handling. If you're on a Striker Titan or an Arc Strider, the handling is going to be just a tad bit better, but here's the deal with these two. You can perk what those give. If you want a better reload, you can put on Reloader Gauntlets, and those gauntlets alone outdo whatever that perk possibly gives to the reload stat. And for Arc, a Dexterity perk outdoes anything that this handling perk from Elemental Capacitor would ever give you. So that brings us to Void subclass for stability. You get increased stability on a Void subclass. This is something that you can't pull out of thin air. The others can be pulled out of thin air with mods. Not only can they be pulled, but they're actually better. You can put on a solar subclass for a faster reload, or you can just use the artifact or something on your armor for enhanced rifle loader, enhanced hand cannon loader, things like that. And in this case, enhanced scout reloader. But adding stability though, that's the special one. And it does work. It even works with the Stillfeather repeater. On the screen right now, both of these scouts have 43 stability. The one on the right has Elemental Capacitor. I'm on a Void subclass. You can see visually that the upwards pop of the recoil is way lessened. This is a low stat of 43, so imagine adding on something like Polygonal or Stability Masterwork. It's going to make it that much better. The theory behind it and what's happening in a duel is that you're getting to that Jade Rabbit type stability with Rapid Hit. You're getting a significant bump to your stability stat, so it's not jumping as high. It doesn't have that upwards pop as high. Rapid Hit's pulling that reticle tighter and straighter. I've been using this one and I'm liking it more than that explosive payload role. And that's just simply due to its outdueling potential. It's a really good combo and is a laser. But you have to be on a Void subclass. Some might find that problematic. Stability is going to be the main draw. And when you look at it, as we talked about with the Arc and Solar, the stats that they give you, my role alone has Fluted Barrel for a huge handling boost, so there's the Arc part. That's also a handling masterwork. So an Arc subclass with this weapon basically won't help at all. It has accurized rounds for range, and as far as the solo reload, it's bypassed by enhanced rifle loader. Stability is the main draw. It's a very good perk combination. So if you're farming these and say you get full auto or rapid hit, whatever it is, and you get elemental capacitor, try it out on a void subclass. Other top roles involve osmosis, full auto, it could even be opening shot. In PvE, the unstoppable shot, anti-barrier rounds, it can do very well. So its perk set could actually go beyond this season. I've been really enjoying it. In the Crucible, it is 54 to the head, 31 to the body, a 3 headshot, 1 body shot kill. It's got a 0.9 TTK. Remember, you're at scout distance, you're like Mida. And Mida's a great weapon and outduels a lot of things. You can do that with this scout. It's a little bit faster than a Bygone, it's a little bit faster than some other weapons, but also a little bit slower. So you have to play your lanes correctly. It's not the best, it's not the worst. Certain perks like explosive payload can flinch your opponent. You are in a lot of gunfights. You're never out of a gunfight with this thing if you're using your range. It feels really good with rapid hit, and it's a really good 200 RPM kinetic scout. I've been outdueling some very popular meta weapons with it, but only with my rapid hit rolls, and I kind of explain why throughout the review. Lastly, at rank 92 of the battle pass, you unlock the ability to roll a second alternate perk. So once you're here and you're going for this scout, look out for rapid hit with Worple Weapon and osmosis. Those are the 2 perks that you want. That's a very PvE centered role. That way you can have the damage for bosses. You can switch to osmosis for something like match game. It has utility. For PvP, rapid hit with explosive payload, and my choice is elemental capacitor. That way you can go in between them. You can also substitute elemental capacitor for Worple or opening shot, or maybe you want Worple and opening shot. It's going to be whatever caters to your needs. And in that first perk column, for some of you, it might be full auto. In the middle perks for all of them, we discussed it: range for mouse and keyboard, stability for controller, and on console. In conclusion, it's one of the better 200 RPM kinetic scouts in the game. It's right up there with Mida. Of course, we talked about what Mida does very, very well, but as a legendary kinetic, the Patron excels. It depends on if you're a scout user or not, of course. In the Crucible, if you're on the fence, grab a roll with rapid hit. Those stability perks are what you see on all of the top scouts used. There's a reason for that. And I think that if you get rapid hit going, you're gonna see the stability, you're gonna see the stickiness, and then you can make your decision from there. I, for one, will be using it beyond the season. I like it a lot because the feel of it is fantastic. They did a really good job with it. So if you do like this scout, go get the roll that you want. Do not settle on these. Get the 2 perks that you want, and once you have those 2 perks, then you start working on barrels in the magazine for a more complete roll. Honestly, trash them if they're halfway. Don't settle. So you get something like Underdog with elemental capacitor, and you want to try that stability on a void subclass, use it then to kind of get a feel for it, and if you like it, then you start going for rapid hit to pair it with. Or maybe you want to see how explosive payload works against snipers, against the arbalist. Try to get that roll, use it, and then go for your full auto roll to pair with it, or rapid hit. You can farm a lot of these things at a time, and you can do it fairly quickly. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like. That really helps me out. And to get the videos when they go live, ring the bell, that way you can get it when it drops. Let's talk about the Patron of Lost Causes down below. What do you think about it? What's your favorite role? Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.